Hello, and welcome to Wildcard Rewind. My name is Hannah, and I'll be your host today. And Happy New Year to everyone. And I'll be joined by the lovely Paul. So let's get right to it and break down week 17.
I just want to rewind to when we were young at heart. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
Well, Happy New Year to everyone, and to you, Paul. How's things going?
Happy New Year to you too. Absolutely brilliant. I've had a nice, lovely week off. It was a bit of a shame to go back to work today, but you know, it's been a good week. The kids have had a great time, so yeah, it's good. What about yourself? How was your fantasy championship weeks? Go on.
Yeah, I would say mixed bag. Some players have been awesome and some have disappointed, as I'm sure we'll get to a bit later on. How about yours, Paul? I know you've been in a few too.
Yeah, I'm two out of three at the moment, and hoping to beat Murph in the other one to make it 100% championship win. What's the words I'm looking for? To win 100% of my championships that I got into. So,
well, that's pretty awesome. Very impressive. I'm probably going to be about at 50%, I think, this year, but it's not too bad. I got into more championships than last season, so I can't sniff. And obviously, I got into the final of the Scottish Bowl, so that's me.
You say that like it's so nonchalant. Oh yeah, you know what? I also got into the final of the biggest fantasy football tournament in the world. You know what I mean? And you're just like, you know what I mean?
I was expecting it, of course. No, I wasn't. It was like some sort of miracle, honestly, that I got into it. So it's been great fun. I've really enjoyed it. I'm not going to win, but just getting that far, you know, like you say, is impressive. So it's been a good season, and I think this NFL season has been too. So should we look into week 17 and see what went down?
No. You should agree with me here, Hannah. I've seen the prediction results. You are on the same page as me. We just want to just not do this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely wasn't quite as we were expecting, was it really? But let's look into it, shall we? So should we start with your first one, Paul? You had the Saints versus the Eagles. You predicted an Eagles win, and to be fair, I can't think many people would have bet against the Eagles in this one. But unfortunately, they did actually lose, and the Saints won 20-10. You did predict that Devonta Smith would have more yards than AJ Brown, and that was correct. So you did get one out of the two right here. And as I say, I'd be surprised if anyone else had actually bet the Saints here. So I think you've done a pretty good job.
You know what I mean? Nobody would have said, you know what, the 6-9 Saints would have beaten the 13-2 Eagles, who, you know, so it is what it is. That I kind of feel that that's the way this week has gone. I think there's been a lot of strange results, a lot of everything.
Yeah.
First of all, the one thing I am going to say first of all about this, it's more about a comment about the Eagles team itself. Jalen Hurts, to me, is now more of an MVP candidate than before he went out injured. Because seeing, like, you know, because you see some of these teams and you go, they've got the great defense, they've got the great O-line, they've got the great offense. You could put any QB in there and they could win. But actually, you put any QB in there and they can't win. You put Jalen Hurts in there and somehow he just makes everything work. And actually, you know what I mean? He's taken this team and he deserves to be a strong contender for MVP for me.
Yeah, I think they do lose something, don't they? I think when he's not there.
I don't know what it is, but like, you know, I've seen other teams before where they've got everything in place. Look at the 49ers, you know what I mean? The 49ers, it doesn't matter what QB they've had there, the QB's got the job done.
Apart from Trey Lance, right?
Apart from Trey, oh wow. the jury's still out on him at the moment.
It is.
Like, you know, I don't know, just Gardner Minshew. I don't know if he's that bad of a QB, and the Eagles are just riding it and just going, do you know what? We're in the playoffs. They've got a tough ask now to get the number one spot, but I think if this was 6 weeks ago, I think maybe you'd see the Eagles looking at a different QB to bring in instead of Gardner Minshew. I don't know if he's that bad, or I don't know if actually Jalen Hurts is so good. He deserves it, but I will blow my own trumpet here. I did say that Smith would have more yards than AJ Brown because Lattimore was back, and he was back with a bang with a cheeky pick six in there as well, you know. But to be fair, I kind of want to go back to Mags's question about who's the better wide receiver there. Is it Devontae Smith? Is he the number one, or is it AJ Brown? Who do you? Because you weren't here for that one, were you? So I want to bring that question to you now and go, who do you think is the number one wide receiver in this team? Is it AJ Brown or is it Devontae Smith?
It is an awesome question, isn't it? Because they are both excellent wide receivers. But I think I still have to go with AJ Brown. I think because of what he can bring, because last season, really, Devonta Smith was the de facto number one on that team. And yes, okay, maybe all of the pieces weren't quite there, but he didn't do as well, I don't think, last season as he has done this season. And I think he has been helped by the presence of AJ Brown. He gets the double teams, and then Smith, has more opportunities. So I would say maybe it's a bit like a Chase Higgins kind of, deal where it's like a 1A and 1B. But I still think that AJ Brown has more of the it factor. Now, it might just be that actually he's played a lot more. We know what he can do. And Devonta Smith, he's only been in 2 seasons. And, in the end, he does become a 1A. But I personally think that AJ Brown is the 1A. And Devonta Smith is, you can look at it as a 1B. But I think Brown does have the edge there over Smith, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with you. I agree that they are very much 1A and 1B. I wouldn't like to put them in any other way than that. One more thing I will mention about this one, I put this in for you, is Taysom Hill and his sneaky little run plays that nobody knows what he's going to do. And he went and done it. And he lined up, I think they were on the 2-yard line, they lined up. And I even said to my wife, who does not care about NFL at all, and I went, Taysom Hill's going to run this in. And he run it in. And I was just, do you know what, Hannah? I wished you were on Zoom or FaceTime or something with me yesterday, because I'd have just gone, Hannah, look, see, if Eli Apple was here, that wouldn't have happened.
See, everyone scares Eli Apple, but he was the only one that's managed to stop him.
So I thought as soon as I seen him go in, and I was like, I've got to add that one in because Hannah's going to appreciate that one, so she can brag about Eli Apple some more,
Well,
but again, we've said it time and time before. When will people realize that when Taysom Hill lines up there, he's going to run it?
I don't. Well, it's taken a full season, and people still haven't managed to stop him.
He's been doing it for the last couple of years, though, isn't he? Really, just comes in and he Taysom Hill's lining up. Oh, bam! He's run one in. Great. But yeah, apart from that, I was a bit disappointed in the Eagles in a whole. I thought, their touchdown was a bit of talent from AJ Brown, but I also think the corner, the corner made a bit of an error. DeMarcus Fields, is that his name? He made a bit of an error, and kind of AJ Brown got away from him, and that was it. Then he was to the house. You're not going to catch somebody like that when he's full go. So, and apart from that, I think they had 2 field goals. It was one field goal, and it was just awful.
Just didn't feel like they could get anything going, did it? Really, that one.
Yeah. So But for them to get the number one spot, I did look into this. So the Eagles play the Giants next week. Now the Giants they've qualified, don't they? So they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like the Giants will maybe rest players because they're in, and there's not really, they can't go up, they can't go down, they're in. So they've got nothing to play for next week. So they may sneak an easy win here, which would be exactly what they want. If they lose, then they've got to contend with the Cowboys, who play the Commanders, and the 49ers play the Cardinals. So, I could see the 49ers putting a strong team out, going for that number one spot. I could see the Cowboys putting a strong team out and going for that number one spot. And I can see the Eagles wanting that number one spot. So I don't know. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting week 18, if I'm honest, with them teams, because I think any one of them can do it. So I'm quite interested to see what goes on.
Yeah, I'm really interested, actually. I don't think the schedule's come out for next week yet, but if the Eagles play in the early window, the Cowboys and the 49ers are going to know, aren't they? Because if the Eagles win, then they get the number one seed. So the 49ers and Cowboys will know, if the Eagles play in the early window, where things are going to go and whether they're going to be able to get the one seed or not. So I'd be interested to see how that's going to play out, because obviously if they do play in the early window, then that might change how the Cowboys and the 49ers play their teams. My suspicion is they'll put them in the late window because of exactly this. They want some good games. So
so the only two that are out so far are the Chiefs Raiders play Saturday at 9:30, and the Titans Jags play Sunday at 1:15 in the morning.
Yeah, because obviously we know that does have playoff implications, doesn't it, that one? So yeah, I suspect they'll put the Eagles in the late window because they want some.
Yeah, I think that would be quite a good idea. That he put all of them games, the 49ers, Cardinals, they're normally the late window anyway, because they're the West Coast, aren't they? So I think if you could put the Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Commanders all in the late window, all playing the same time, then they've all got, you know what I mean? Like you said, what you don't want is the Eagles to go and win in the early window, and then all of a sudden, the Cowboys just drop everyone and just go, we've got the number 2 spot, or we've got the number 3 spot. There's not really much we can do about it. So
just leaving it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week, but they need that win, don't they, to secure the one seed. So shall we have a look at one that Mags had for his predictions, which was the Jags versus the Texans. So he predicted a Jags win, which was correct. They won pretty astoundingly, 31-3. And the Texans, he predicted that they would go under 15.5 points. And of course, that was correct. Seems like he had a bit of an easy ride with that one, didn't he? To be honest.
So, I think getting the Jags to win was one I think that was pretty easy. But I looked at the Texans, and over the previous 3 weeks before this, they'd scored 20 odd points, and that included the Chiefs, and it included some I was like, if they could put these kind of points up against the Chiefs, they could do it against the Jags, But fair play to Mags, credit where credit's due. I always slag him off, but credit where credit's due. He said he'd never bet against the Texans, and he was right not to. So I will, fair play, Mags. But honestly, this game felt very meh. It was very, you know what I mean? I was like, it. The best way I could describe it would be like a really, really good team playing a pre-season against a really, really bad team. And it just felt, it's just too easy, Etienne run and all of this, and it just felt like it was just too easy, and the Jags were probably running at about 80% and just going, do you know what, we're going to get the win anyway. So it did feel a bit meh, but I will say, as a group, we like watching the Lions, and we like how exciting they are. I'm starting to feel this way about the Jags at the moment. I think if the Jags can have a good draft, I really, really think that they're going to be a really exciting team to watch in 2023.
Yeah, do you know, I got quite excited about them at the beginning of the season. They started doing some quite nice little bits, and I thought, oh, they could really, put something together here this season. And they kind of fell off a little bit in the middle of the season, and I feel like now they're just starting to put a little bit back, more back together again. Of course, if they win next week, then they're in the playoffs. I can't imagine that they will get particularly far, but I think they've had a pretty impressive season from where they came from, the Urban Meyer, period, all of that kind of shenanigans. They are starting to kind of bring things together, and like you say, next season we know that they've got the wide receiver already. Well, I can't remember his name, from Atlanta. Help me out, Paul.
Calvin Ridley.
Absolutely. They know they've got Ridley coming in, who is certainly going to be an upgrade from everyone they've got, at the moment. So, like you say, I think they could be quite exciting next season. And Trevor Lawrence seems to be starting to put together, everything a little bit more now, trying to kind of show what his talent is. And I am quite excited too, to be honest. I agree with you on that one.
It's the same with Travis Etienne, They drafted him and everyone, it was a bit early to draft him and stuff. And he's actually starting now to maybe click and get things going. And, I am a bit worried about what sort of player we're going to get with Calvin Ridley, because he's going to have like 2 years out of football. And, is he going to be the Calvin Ridley that we all know and love and stuff like that? But I do think the right draft this year for the in April for the draft for the Jags would be great, and I'm quite excited to see what they're going to do. The only thing I can say about the Texans is they are doing exactly what they need to do to have the 101 in the draft.
Yeah. I mean,
that all looks awful.
Yeah. Complete disaster. I can't see Lovie Smith being there next year. I don't know who they'll get, but I think that's going to be interesting.
They're full rebuild, aren't they? You know what I mean?
I do feel a bit sorry for that QB that's going to have to come in. Whoever the 101 ends up being. They're not there yet, are they? They've got a lot of building to do, so that always worries me. But we'll see how things go. They're going to get it, aren't they? So
but. Go on then, let's go on to your first game. You had an amazing game. How lucky were you to get this game? You had the Cardinals versus the Falcons. And I think me and Mags predicted all of these for you, didn't we?
You did. So I came in and did my own predictions because I saw you predicted me a Cards win, and I was like, no way. I don't think so.
No, I'm pretty sure we... do you know what, we might have said Cards win? Yeah, we may have.
Come on, it's you, Paul. Come on, now.
I can't remember. But yeah, you said a Falcons win, which was correct. They won 20-19. We also said Cordell Patterson. You went for Cordell Patterson under 55.5 all-purpose yards, which is unfortunately incorrect because he had 82. Go on, talk about this exciting game.
I think you did this to me on purpose, Paul, because you know how terrible your team is, and you just want to be sadistic and make me have to watch them as well. It's not my fault.
If I'm going to watch them, you've all got to watch them, okay?
It's not my fault. My team is doing well. You don't have to take it out on me, Paul. Come on now. I mean, look, it was two bad teams playing each other, wasn't it, really? Ridder versus Blau, not exactly, lighting the world on fire. I don't think we really need to take too much time talking about it. I do think, though, Tyler Algier has started to put together some decent games. I think he is playing himself into a role on this offense moving forward. Whether that's lead back or not, I'm not totally convinced on that one, but I do think he could have a nice little role there. So I think he's, getting himself into a position to still be kind of relevant on this team. So I've got a question for you then, Paul. I'm sure you will have watched this game. So tell me, do you think that Atlanta have found their QB for the future, or do you think they still need to go and do some searching?
I still think they. Do you know what? If they'd have played the way that they should and just literally tanked the whole season, I think they could have gone and got themselves one of these amazing QBs that are coming in this year. You know, they may drop one because if you look at the teams in front of them, you know, I don't know. I think there's three QBs coming from what I've heard, three QBs that could. So I don't know who's in front of them to see whether they're going to get one of them QBs to drop that far. I'm not sure, but I still think that they're looking for another QB to come in. It's so I just want to pick up on that Tyler Algier, is that how you pronounce his name? So I think he's going to be the lead back there next year, and I don't know what's happened to Patterson, because obviously last year he was everyone's favorite fantasy guy, wasn't he? Really, and he was their trick play, and they used him in the passing game, they used him in the rushing game, they used him in everything, But I was just looking now at his contract. The Falcons can get out of his contract this year. So I'm starting to think now that they're slowly passing the baton on to Algier and sort of going, do you know what? You're going to be our guy. And we're sort of entering a rebuild mode. You know, the young running back, they won't need one in the draft, so they can focus on other positions. And I think he is going to be their lead back moving forward, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and that might well be the case. I think in the longer term, whether he becomes like their perennial lead back, I'm not convinced. Maybe next season, yes. I think the problem with CPAT is that he's just getting on a bit, isn't he now? Like, he is really great, like you say, DIY, will do everything, do it all kind of back, but he just isn't durable enough to last as the lead back for the whole season. We know he's been out quite a few games last season and this season. And so I just don't think they can work him as in that lead role. Now, whether they keep him as like a, third down, change of pace kind of guy, then maybe they'll stick with the two of them next year. I don't know. But yeah, I can see what you're saying about Algier. As I say, I'm not totally convinced that when this team has rebuilt, he'll still be kind of in that lead back position. But he might, really grab hold of that job and take it next season and stick with it. I don't know, but I think he is running himself into some sort of role. But yeah, like you say, it really depends on what they decide to do kind of in the draft and in the off season as to what that role is going to be.
Yeah, and CPAP just for thing is he's 31 at the moment, so
and it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I do know that obviously he has never really been a lead back, particularly. He's never had that kind of full lead role to kind of get that wear and tear, but he does suffer from injuries. And I think he does struggle with that usage, that I just can't see them wanting to have him in the lead role moving forward.
yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I think the Cardinals are like just tanking now. I think they're accepting the fact that we're not going to win any more games. I'm not expecting them to win any more games, and I think they're done. And I think that's why we've seen DeAndre Hopkins appear going on to IR.
Yeah, well, they might as well mind. No, they're currently fourth in the order, the draft order, and they could potentially move up with a Denver win and things like that. So Denver have nothing to kind of tank for, so there's a chance that they do get into that 3 spot. So like you say, what even is the point of winning at this point? Do you think that Cliff Kingsbury's going to be here next season, or do you think you're going to manage to get rid of him?
Okay, so I'll give you 2 answers to that question. I will give you what I think will happen, and I will give you what I want to happen. What I think will happen is he's still there, and they're still somehow going, yeah, he'll sort it, he'll get it done, blah, 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 blowing his trumpet and everything like this. What I want to happen is I want him to go. And I want him to go now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're going to keep him. I think they're going to find an excuse. They're going to say, oh, Kyler had an injury, even though they were doing terrible before that. Obviously, they have their GM has retired, hasn't he, because of health issues. So they will be looking for a new GM. And it's just whether they say, right, we're going to kind of clear a house now and start again, or whether
hopefully. I do think what we need to do, though, is we need a decent backup QB now, because obviously Kyler won't be starting the start of next season, and I'm sorry, but Colt McCoy's okay.
When he plays,
if he's playing, but he's still only okay. McSorley, that experiment needed to end quickly, and then they brought in somebody who I can only describe as somebody that you'd meet down the pub, David Blau. You know, he sounds like the local postman or something, doesn't he? You know what I mean? You'd just be walking along and be like, "Oh, I am David Blau," you know, not an NFL quarterback. Like, so I don't know. I think the experiment needs to end.
Yeah, I mean, I think really you'd be useful having someone like a Jacoby Brissett or someone like that can kind of hold down the fort. But to be honest, Kyler's going to be out, like you say, a lot of the season. So how well are they going to do next season? It's a really interesting position the Cardinals are in. Something we should definitely chat about in the off season for sure. Should we move on and look at your next game, Paul, which was the Vikings versus the Packers? You predicted a Vikings win, which, again, who could blame you? But unfortunately, it was incorrect, and the Packers did actually win, and they pummeled them 41-17. And then you predicted that no Packers player would get more yards than their Vikings counterparts. That would be RB to RB or wide receiver to wide receiver. And unfortunately, you got that wrong as well. Just one example is that Aaron Jones totally lit it up with 113 yards, and Cook's only got 44. I thought this was pretty harsh on you, Paul, I have to be honest. And again, unlucky, who would have gone against the Vikings after the way the Packers had been playing earlier in the season. But they seem to have got their shit together now, haven't they? And seem to be putting some games together, and they could easily make the playoffs.
Yeah, so this game was one of the craziest games of the season. Let's be honest. Going into this game, like you said, everyone would have probably backed the Vikings and gone, do you know what? The Vikings will do this. It's fine. The Packers have had a bad season. Yeah. Nobody thought that in the fourth quarter that the Green Bay Packers would be 41-3 up. You know what I mean? 41-3. That's not even a little bit close. I know they ended up on 17, but I kind of feel that they're garbage time touchdowns, and it was all just a bit, yeah, you may as well. So, to rub salt in the wounds would have been to bench Aaron Rodgers and everything like that. And, you know what I mean? It's just, but it was a crazy game, crazy outcome. But what I will say is let's just take a moment to feel for all of the fantasy football players in the world that started Justin Jefferson in their championship week, and he had one reception for, what was it, 12 yards? That was it.
I had a flex frenzy league, right? And I had the Vikings, so I had Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And of course, complete disaster.
Yeah. So, I don't know what. Do you know what? Honestly, I was I was looking to see if he was maybe injured, because I was like, how is Justin Jefferson only on one reception? I was like, maybe I've missed it somewhere, and he's gone to the blue tent and he's hurt his leg, and they've gone, do you know what? We're in the playoffs. We're going to make it. So let's not risk him. Let's go and sit him out. I I don't know. Maybe they've thought we're going to the playoffs anyway, so let's just start resting Justin Jefferson now because he's a key piece in that team. I don't know. But it is frustrating for fantasy players. Me and you are both fantasy players. It is frustrating when you see that, especially if you've got all the way to the championship game with these players and stuff. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the Vikings' decision and they didn't give him much because I think he had 5 targets, didn't he? 5 targets, caught 1. I don't know if because they targeted KJ Osborne most of the time and Hawkinson and stuff like that. So I don't know if it was the Viking side of things. I don't know if Jay Alexandra had Justin Jefferson's number and just went, mate, I'm going to be on you all day, and I don't know. I genuinely, I don't know what happened to the Vikings, and it adds to my worry of the Vikings going into the playoffs. I feel like they peaked early, and now they are on a downward slope, and they get into crunch time now, and what you would want as a coach for your team now, especially like next week. Next week you want them. I think they play the Bears next week, so you want them to go out a bit like a preseason. Go out and absolutely destroy somebody. Give you guys all the work that they can get. Go out and just go into that playoffs with confidence, because at the moment, if they don't get that win next week, they're going into this playoffs and they're going to be a bit. Their headspace is going to be a bit all over the place, and I really worry what's going to happen to them in the playoffs.
I think it just shows that they are a high ceiling, low floor team. So on a good game, they can do amazingly. They can put up lots of points. They can win these very tight games, but they can also bottom out. We've seen what Kirk Cousins can do when things are going wrong. It can be a complete disaster. They just have this really low floor. And like you say, I think it depends on who they get in the first round. They might not even get past the first round, I don't think, at this point, depending on who they face. But you never know. They might start to bring it together again and make a bit of a run. But I've never been totally convinced about this team throughout the whole season. So I'm not totally surprised that this happened. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens as we get into the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can find out who they've got.
Next week.
No, in the playoff picture as it stands.
At the moment, yeah, I can't remember.
Well, at the moment, they're the 3rd seed, so they'll play the 6th seed, won't they?
So
at the moment, it's the Giants.
Yeah, and I think that can change based on results next week. So,
yeah, so they've clinched the playoffs. So the Cowboys are the only ones that can go above them, because the Bucks are 8-8. So they won't catch them. The Cowboys are 12-4, Vikings are 12-4. So they can.
Next week
it could all change. If they're the 5th seed, then they'll play the Bucks.
Yeah.
So I think they may struggle against them. I don't know, but I'm definitely worried about them going into these playoffs. Definitely.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I agree with you on that one.
But we'll get into Mag's second game. Wow, we're talking loads tonight, Hannah. We got this, haven't we? Mag's second game was 49ers versus the Raiders. He predicted a 49ers win, correct. And George Kittle over 0.5 touchdowns, which was also correct. I think he should have -4 points because he let us down and didn't turn up tonight. So, but yeah, go on then, Hannah. What did you make of this good game?
Do you know what? I actually really enjoyed it. Who would have thought that the Stidham-led Raiders would give the 49ers a decent game? This is another one where I thought, man, 49ers are going to walk over this. Stidham, the Raiders have not been able to kind of piece together an offense particularly well this season. So I was like, the 49ers are going to walk all over them. And they didn't at all. It was so much fun to watch. I really enjoyed it. Now, it might just be that the 49ers had kind of taken their foot off the gas a little. They know that they're in. and they kind of expected a bit of a easier game. But they did manage to get the win. I do think though CMC really is a game changer. Like, he can literally do so much within an offense that, you know, he just brings everything together. He's like that kind of Swiss Army knife, you know, super extra thing that just brings everything together and keeps everything going. And I do think he is one of the reasons why the 49ers just haven't missed a step with Brock Purdy in, because I know, like, previously when we were talking about Trey Lance coming into the office, we were saying, you know, potentially George Kittle could be his safety blanket. But I think in this scenario now we've got CMC, he really is that safety blanket. Like, you can hand it off to him, you can, you know, give him these short little throws, you can throw it down the field to him. Like, he's everywhere and anywhere, and he can just do anything. And I just think he really is bringing this offense together. I think these are getting really dangerous, you know. I can see the 49ers really making a run here. And I think they're secretly kind of winding up for the playoffs. You know, we've talked about the Eagles and everything so much, and potentially the Cowboys, but I think the 49ers are the dark horse here, and I honestly could see them going all the way from the NFC, you know, because of everything that they've got going on. You know, I don't think there's too much to say on the Raiders side. Look, they're not in the playoffs. We know there's kind of things changing at quarterback with Carr being benched. Again, another kind of topic for us in the off season. But I do think Stidham really did play well this week. It was great to see kind of him and Adams having that connection, and Adams finally kind of doing Adams things and taking those crazy catches. So I really enjoyed kind of seeing him do quite well. Now, that's probably not going to be sustainable, but it was fun for a week. And the 49ers are actually currently in the 2 seed spot, and they have got a reasonable chance for the 1 seed if the Eagles lose. So again, something to play for next week. So that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. It was a lot of fun. And as I say, CMC, I think, really is just that final piece in that team that's bringing everything together. And I think they're primed for a run here. They really are.
I hope you're wrong, because I don't like the 49ers. But imagine a Brock Purdy-led 49ers getting all the way to the Super Bowl.
And I think what an amazing story it would be for him.
You know what I mean? I don't like the 49ers, and one of my good friends is a 49ers fan, and that doesn't help anyway. But it was just, I think it's just a great story that Brock Purdy leading the 49ers to a Super Bowl. That would be amazing. But yeah, let's get on to your second game, Hannah. You had the Jets versus the Seahawks. You predicted a Jets win, which I probably would have done the same. And you had Jets under 1.5 interceptions, which was incorrect. They had 2. So what did you make of this one?
Yeah, I really thought that Mike White coming back was going to kind of change the Jets' fortunes, because they'd been struggling the last few weeks, hadn't they, with Zach Wilson back in, but it wasn't to be. It just felt like a really scrappy game, to be honest. I didn't particularly enjoy it. It was a must-win for the Jets, as we knew, to try and kind of keep their playoff hopes alive, and they just couldn't do it. I'm not totally convinced that Mike White was 100%. We know, obviously, he had those ribs and he got cleared by doctors to be able to play, but I don't think he was kind of, you know, all kind of guns a-blazing, and I think that probably didn't help them. But again, you know, I feel like this is what I've been talking about the whole of this episode, like another team with a QB problem. You know, actually, they've got a reasonable nucleus of players, this team. They're not like the Falcons, where they've got a lot of pieces missing. If you look at it, this defense is really quite pretty good, and they've got some really nice offensive pieces if Breece Hall comes back, and you know, Garrett Wilson and things. So they do have some really nice pieces there, and I think the big thing that they're missing is a quarterback and some decent pieces on the O-line. And I think if they get those 2 in position, they really are kind of good to go for a playoff run here. I think if you spoke to any Jets fan at the start of the season, they would have been happy with how their season had gone. But I think because there had been kind of these playoff hopes, And then the last few weeks, they've just kind of fallen off. I think they probably are a little bit disappointed, but I really don't think they should be. I think that they, have done really awesome for what we expected them to do. Again, I can't wait to see what they're going to do at quarterback next season. There's going to be a lot of moves this off-season, a lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got to say, the defense did do an awesome job of containing DK, another player that had like one catch for 12 yards or something, RIP, for the fantasy teams. But the Seahawks did manage to have enough other answers to kind of get the W. So they do have kind of a lot of things that need to fall into place to get into the playoffs, but they have managed to keep their playoff hopes alive for now, have the Seahawks. Again, I think they've fallen off a bit. I'm not sure they're going to do a lot, but they could still potentially get in there. So, did you see much of it? I didn't find it very.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to add one thing. I think what you were saying about the Jets fans and their season. I think what they've done is the Jets have won games, which they were happy to see, and they've confirmed that Zach Wilson is not the future QB for them. So they now know, or the coaches know, do you know what? This is what we need in the draft. This is what we're going to go and get. Ring up the Cardinals because they don't want a QB. So ring them up. Come and give us the house, and we'll trade you the fourth pick.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for you that they do that. So should we move on to our game of the week, which this week was the Panthers versus the Bucks. So the Bucks did manage to beat the Panthers 30-24. What did you think of the game, Paul?
So I believe you put the same thing as me. This was the game that everyone wanted to see because it was like playoff. It was like a playoff game, wasn't it? It was to both of them. It was a massive game, and they both did amazing. They both did amazing. Even Sam Darnold looked like a decent QB again. I was like, what? Where's this Sam Darnold been? And the Panthers. What did the Panthers do? So the Panthers sacked their head coach mid-season. They traded away their best player, and since then they look like a different team. They actually look competent, and they're flinging the ball about. And Sam Darnold actually looks like a first-round QB, and I'm just like, fair dues. You had a good crack at this, DJ Moore had a phenomenal game, but somehow he was the third best wide receiver on the field. DJ Moore went for 117 yards and 1 touchdown, and was the third best wide receiver on the field. Chris Godwin went for 120 yards and a 2-point conversion. And then I don't know how we're even saying this after the weeks he's had, but Mike Evans yet again has got his 1,000-yard season in the bag, and he did it the week that he goes for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. Where did this week come from? Where did this Mike Evans come from? Because he's not been, last year you could have said, yeah, he's the Bucks are the type of team that will go and do that. They'll go and throw 200 yards to a wide receiver with 3 touchdowns. But this year they've not looked like a team that could do that. And somehow we're sitting here going, what the hell? Why has this happened? And again, it's the Bucks, and this is what they do. Or it's not even the Bucks. This is Tom Brady. This is what Tom Brady does. I hate him. I genuinely hate him because he just keeps delivering, and I don't know how he keeps delivering. Go on. You want to say?
No,
something?
I was just going to say this is exactly what what I was going to say. Like you can never count him out, can you? I actually thought, right, the Bucks are down and out this season. There's no way they're going to make it to the playoffs now that everyone's kind of coming back towards them. They've struggled the last few games, well, they're struggling the whole season, but they've managed to just put it all together. But they go into a game which is basically winner takes all. And guess what? Tom Brady takes it all again. I don't think they're going to get this magical run this year in the playoffs. I really don't. But we know that when the chips are down, he can piece it together. So I hats off to the Bucks. I really thought the Carolina though played a great game, and I think most of the first half I thought they're gonna win this, but they didn't quite manage to piece it all together to take it away. But it was great fun. I really enjoyed watching it. So shall we have a look at the scoreboard?
Can I just ask you a question? Do you remember the last time that Tom Brady threw over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns?
I'm going to say some point last season.
Week 17 last season. You know what I mean? Week 17 is Tom Brady's week by the looks of it. It's just, the year before, week 16, because that's what it was back then, the championship week in the fantasy, 348 yards and 4 touchdowns. Oh, this guy is just, you know what I mean?
He can sniff the playoffs. He knows it.
He can't he? He's like, oh, I'm there. We're going.
Yeah, that's his safe space, the playoffs. He knows what he's doing. He's got it.
Would it be the NFL playoffs if Tom Brady wasn't in it?
No.
You know what I mean?
Come on now. So let's have a look at our scoreboard. Damn you, Mags. You got 4 this week. I'm fed up of Mags getting all of his right. I swear they're too easy for him. So he's currently on 49. You and I, Paul, we were at the bottom of the pack and we only had 1 each this week. But I've still managed to go on.
Sorry, I did mention to Mags last week that for week 18 that we did 10 points per answer. So it's all
you want to try and win.
It's all to, bring me back into this. It's all to play for.
You're only saying that because you don't want to lose.
Yeah, but look. So, right. Look, Mags is not here now. It's just me and you, just having a little chat. You can't beat Mags.
No, none of
You're
us.
6 points behind. So you need to agree with me here just for a chance of winning this.
But I have to say, I'm actually quite happy just not coming last because we've already decided, or I've already decided that last place buys drinks. So
yeah, but you know what I mean? It's just we need to beat Mags. Come on, Hannah. It's just me and you here now. Just me and you, just having a little chat.
Oh, go on then. If you're making me, but you still buy the drinks because you're still the loser, right?
Okay, if you say so. I'll get the first round. But I tell you what, we'll put it as a Twitter poll. If Twitter says yes, 10 points per point, then we'll get it.
Fine.
But yeah,
fine.
sorry, go on. Carry on with what you're saying.
No, well, I was just going to say that I've still managed to be in second place with 43, and unfortunately, Paul taking up the rear as usual with 36. But if Twitter says so, might not be the case next week. Let's see. Shall we have a quick look at our hit rewind moments of the week? Yeah. So I'll start with mine, shall I? And this was actually Stidham throwing an absolute dime to Adams, and the safety of Honga was basically in his face, about to pummel him to the ground, and he seemed to manage to get it to Adams, who managed to score a touchdown. I haven't explained it very well, but it was really good fun to watch. So that was my hit rewind moment of the week.
So mine is a slight defense for the player as well. So I've gone for Kayvon. You're gonna have to help me here, Hannah. Thibodeau.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Thibodeau.
Yeah. It was when he sacked Nick Foles, and Nick Foles was injured, and he was lay on the floor doing the snow angel. Now, massive shithousery, okay? Because the quarterback's injured, he probably shouldn't have celebrated as long as he did. But at the same time, unless his teammates were screaming at him, get up, he's injured, he doesn't know. Because he's lay on the floor. He's not looking at Nick Foles. He's lay on the floor doing his snow angel. So I'm going to defend him a little bit here. A lot of people are criticizing him. He can't see through the top of his helmet, okay? He can't see through his top of his helmet because he's lay on the floor looking up at the sky. So I think his teammates are the ones to blame. They should be pulling him off the floor going, nope. So, but yeah, go and watch it. It is quite a unique moment.
Yeah, it was interesting, and as you say, I've seen a lot on social media about it, so we'll see how things go. So let's do our rapid recap. Let's just have a look at our games that have some sort of playoff implications, shall we? So shall we start with the Patriots beating the Dolphins 23-21? So this is another one where I did not expect this game to go the way it did. Tua unfortunately was out with his third concussion of the season, which of course we do wish him well and hope he makes a full recovery. It's quite scary, really. Three in the season, and
Well,
I think
there's been some really, really horrific reports where he was watching tape with is it Mike McDaniels, and he actually said he didn't remember the decisions that he made on the field and stuff like this. So
yeah, it is scary, and
it's really bad.
Health is really important. So I hope he gets better and he makes the right decision for him, whatever that is in terms of playing. But get well soon, Tua, and rest up. I did actually think that Teddy Bridgewater, although they've struggled with Tua out, I thought he could probably steer this offense well enough to get the win, particularly because we know that the Pats offense has been pretty putrid this season. They can't seem to have done anything, but somehow they managed to piece together a little bit of offense today, kept themselves in the game and actually went on to win it. The Dolphins did really struggle here, and I do think it was the combination of Tua being out and the Pats defense doing their thing, because the Pats defense actually is still pretty good, even if the offense has been putrid until this week. Early in the season, I actually thought the Dolphins were guaranteed a playoff spot. How well they were doing. They were kind of marching on. Everyone, I think, kind of thought they might even get to the Super Bowl, but they've actually now lost 5 in a row, and their playoff fate's not even in their hands. They need quite a lot to go right for them to even get in the playoffs. So they need to win versus the Jets, and the Patriots need to lose versus the Bills. So they could still do it, but at one point they were kind of gliding into the playoffs, and it's had a bit of a sudden turnaround there. And obviously they're not going to probably have Bridgewater or Tua next week. So I'm not totally convinced that they're going to make it, to be honest, even at this point, which is a bit of a turn up for the Bucs.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a bit of a shock, really, isn't it? Massive shock. We talk about shocks of the season, and that could be one. If they don't make the playoffs, that could be one it's a big shock, But
yeah, should we have a look?
Go on. I'll go into the Giants beating the Colts. So Danny Mahomes for the Giants, where's he been? where's this absolutely awesome, Swiss Army knife QB been all season? How the Giants put up 38 points and Saquon Barkley wasn't in scoring touchdowns still baffles me. Still can't work that out. But what I will say, one thing I did say about this is I think the Giants kind of, once they got a lead, I think they've limited Saquon because he's kind of a key piece for them, and they've clinched playoffs now, haven't they, the Giants?
Yeah, with this game.
So I think once they got their lead, I think they then kind of limited Saquon and went, do you know what? We're going to give you the rest of today, easy. I don't think they'll even play him next week. I think he'll be out next week. He won't even play just so they've got him for the playoffs, because he's a key piece to that offense in the playoffs. So I think he was a little bit limited. But before we move on, I just want to say, do you think that Justin Fields is going to beat Lamar Jackson's rushing yard record this season?
Oh, I think he could, for sure.
So the numbers are, Lamar Jackson his record is 1,206 yards, and Justin Fields has 1,143.
Oh, I think he could well do. Yeah, for sure. Which is going to be fun. Let's see what happens next week, eh?
Yeah.
Shall we move on to our predictions for next week? So week 18, the last week of the regular season. So shall we start with your first game, Paul? You've got winner takes all, Titans versus the Jags. So tell me, who wins? Who do you think is going to make it to the playoffs? And who is going to have more receptions, Robert Woods or Treylon Burks?
So I think the Titans have already announced that can't remember his name. It's going to be the backup QB again. So I'm going to go with a Jags win and Treylon Burks.
Oh, is it Willis in again?
No, it's
Oh,
the
Dobbs.
other one. Is it Dobbs?
The one that played this week.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. I think they've already announced he's going to start against the Jags. So I think it'll be a Jags win. I think it's Treylon Burks. But Mags' first game, he had the Giants versus the Eagles, and he's gone for an Eagles win. And I asked him who's going to score first, the Giants or the Eagles, and he thinks the Eagles will score first. So come on, you Giants, let's go and get your first field goal. Yep. Hannah, your first game is Bengals versus the Ravens. Oh, you give yourself a good game there, and you know what I mean. who wins? And J.K. Dobbins over or under 55 rushing yards.
I'd just like to say in my defence, if the Bengals win tonight, which of course they're going to do, this actually isn't too much of an exciting game because the Bengals have already won the AFC North and they're both already in the playoffs. But if by some kind of miracle the Bengals lose tonight, this is for the AFC North crown. So of course I'm going to say the Bengals. And we have DJ Reader, who is a massive run stuffer. So I'm going to say J.K. Dobbins under 55.5 rushing yards. So your second game, Paul, is the Cowboys versus the Commanders. So tell me who wins and who is going to start for the Commanders this week at QB.
So I've gone for a Cowboys win because, again, they're pushing that number 1 seed and want to get as high as they can. And I think Carson Wentz is going to start for his last time at the Commanders. I think it'll be his last start.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can't see him being a starter, can you, from now on? So Mags' second game was the Lions versus the Packers. So we were asking him who wins, and he's going for the Packers. And if that's the case, then they will get into the playoffs. And then we asked him which rookie will have the most reception between Romeo Dobbs, Watson, or Williams. And he has gone for Watson.
Yeah, I like it. I love that question as well. And Hannah, your second game is the Jets versus the Dolphins. Who wins and which team has the most rushing yards? I'm sure you've had that one before.
I might have done, actually. I just can't remember. But, this is a good one, isn't it? So I'm actually going to go for I'm going to say, well, this is going to be really tough. I don't know.
We broke you.
I know. I'd made a decision about the other one before the pod, but for some reason I didn't even think about this one, and now I need to decide. And I don't know whether it's going to be a Mike White-led Jets or a rookie QB-led Dolphins. So I might go. Do you know what? I'm going to go for a Jets win. I'm doing it. No, I think it's a wrong decision now. It's come out of my mouth, but I'm doing it. But I'm
actually glad I'd have gone for the Jets as well, so it's probably going to be wrong and you're going to lose.
Oh, now you tell me. And I'm going to go with the Dolphins with the most rushing yards. So there's quite a lot on the line next week, which is nice. Usually we've got quite a lot of week 18 games that haven't got a lot kind of on the line, but this season seems to be quite a good one. So looking forward to next week. And unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the show. I've had a great time this evening, and thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at Wildcard Rewind, and don't forget to head over to YouTube and search for Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network, and make sure you give us a subscribe. So we will see you next week for the final show of the regular season, when we will rewind week 18. See you then.
Taking back to the sun.